In the twilight shadows of Earth's last wild frontier, a vast forest untouched by cities and machines, there lived a girl named Jensa. With eyes like molten gold and hair as silver as moonlight, she was unlike anyone else. Her mother was human, her father a spirit of the wolf, ancient and unknowable. Jensa had always been different, faster, stronger, able to hear the whispers of trees and feel the heartbeat of the earth beneath her bare feet. But she never understood why, until the stars fell. The Nirzali forest stretched across what was once northern Canada, a verdant expanse that had withstood humanity's relentless expansion. While domed cities and sprawling arcologies dominated most of Earth's surface, this place remained sacred, protected by ancient treaties and the fierce determination of the few who called it home. Jensa's mother, Elira, had come here as a researcher studying ecological resilience. A brilliant biologist with a stubborn streak that matched her daughter's, she had fought political battles to keep the forest safe from corporate interests that saw only resources to be harvested. "Mom, why do the trees talk to me but not to you?" 7-year-old Jensa had asked once, her golden eyes wide with innocent curiosity. Elira had paused, her hands deep in the soil of their garden. "Some people hear things others can't," she'd said carefully. "Your father? He heard things too." Elira rarely spoke of Jensa's father. When she did, her voice would soften, her eyes drifting to the horizon as if searching for something lost. All Jensa knew were fragments, that he had appeared one winter night during a terrible storm, wounded and desperate. That he had stayed for a year, teaching Elira the old ways of the forest. That he had vanished before Jensa was born, leaving behind only a carved bone pendant that Jensa now wore around her neck. By her 16th birthday, Jensa had grown restless. The forest that had once seemed endless now felt confining. Her body was changing in ways she couldn't understand, muscles rippling beneath her skin during the full moon, senses sharpening until the cacophony of life around her became overwhelming. "There's something wrong with me," she confessed to her mother one evening, hands trembling as she showed Elira the silver fur that had sprouted along her forearms that morning, only to recede hours later. Elira took her daughter's hands. "There's nothing wrong with you," she said firmly. "You're just becoming." "Becoming what?" Her mother had no answer, or perhaps she feared to give one. That night, as the forest whispered with its 1,000 voices, Jensa slipped from their cabin and ran. Her bare feet pounded the earth, her lungs burned, but something wild inside her sang with joy. She ran faster than any human could, leapt over fallen logs with inhuman grace, and felt her consciousness expanding until she could sense every creature for miles around. When she finally stopped, breathless and exhilarated, she found herself in a grove she'd never seen before. Ancient trees formed a perfect circle around a pool of water so still it mirrored the stars above with perfect clarity. As Jensa approached, her reflection changed. For an instant, she saw not her own face, but that of a massive wolf with starlight shimmering through its fur. The vision lasted only a moment before ripples disturbed the water. "You are awakening," came a voice like wind through stones. Jensa whirled to find an old woman standing at the edge of the grove. Her skin was dark as rich soil, lined with 1,000 wrinkles, and her eyes were milky white with blindness. "Who are you?" Jensa demanded, instinctively crouching into a defensive stance. "I am Nima. I was once keeper here." The old woman tilted her head. "Your father knew me. Riel passed through my grove when he first came to Earth." The name sent a jolt through Jensa's body. "My father? You knew him?" "I sheltered him when the hunters came." Nima's blind eyes seemed to see through Jensa. "You have his light in you, and his burden." "What burden? What hunters? Please tell me what I am." But Nima only shook her head. "It is not yet time. Return to your mother, Wather. The stars will speak soon enough." Before Jensa could protest, the old woman vanished between one heartbeat and the next, leaving only the scent of sage and snow behind. For days after her encounter with Nima, Jensa searched the forest, but the mysterious grove seemed to have disappeared as completely as the old woman herself. Her mother noticed her distraction but asked no questions. There had always been secrets between them, things unspoken but understood. Then came the night when the sky split open. Jensa was collecting firewood when she felt it. A pressure in the air, a vibration that set her teeth on edge. Looking up, She saw a streak of blazing white fire tear across the twilight sky. Something was falling, burning through the atmosphere with unnatural precision. It wasn't a meteor. Something inside her knew that with absolute certainty. Dropping her armload of wood, Jensa ran, following the trajectory of the falling star. Her enhanced senses guided her through the darkening forest at speeds that would have been impossible for a normal human. The wind whipped her silver hair behind her as she leapt over fallen trees and splashed through shallow streams. When she reached the impact site, she expected fire and destruction. Instead, she found a perfect clearing where none had been before. The trees pushed back as if by a gentle hand rather than cosmic force. And in the center stood a ship. It was unlike anything human engineering could create. Sleek and glimmering like a shard of a star, its surface rippling with colors that had no names in Earth languages. It hummed with a vibration that resonated deep in Jensa's bones, calling to something ancient within her blood. As she stood transfixed, a seam appeared in the vessel's side, widening into an entrance. Light poured out, momentarily blinding her enhanced vision. When she could see again, beings stood before her, wrapped in what appeared to be starlight itself. There were 3 of them, humanoid but clearly not human. The tallest had skin that shifted like nebulae, swirling with galaxies. Another had features that seemed to blur and change with each movement. The third appeared more solidly physical, with crystalline growths emerging from broad shoulders and a face of geometric precision. Jensa, daughter of Rael, spoke the tallest being in a voice that seemed to echo from everywhere and nowhere at once. We are the Intergalactic Council of Concord, protectors of life across galaxies. We have come for you. Fear and wonder warred within her. How do you know my name? My father? Rael was one of us, said the being with the shifting face. A guardian of the highest order. When his kind fell to the hollow, he fled here to this primitive world, hoping to hide from what pursued him. You are the chosen, continued the tall being. A war stirs in the shadows. A force known as the Hollow spreads from world to world, devouring nature, destroying harmony. Earth is next, but you, Jensa, you are not just of this world. You are of spirit and strength. You are our hope. Jensa shook her head, overwhelmed. I don't understand. I'm just a girl from the forest. I can't. You are more, interrupted the crystalline being. The potential sleeps in your blood. We can awaken it fully if you consent, and if I don't. The beings exchanged glances. Then Earth falls, said the tallest simply, and everything you love dies. Jensa thought of her mother, of Nima, of the forest that had been her only home. What do I have to do? Accept your heritage. Become what you were born to be. The crystalline being stepped forward, extending a hand that glittered with facets like a diamond. In its palm rested a small object, a crystal shard that pulsed with the same rhythm as Jensa's heartbeat. This contains the strength of the prime wolf, a power rooted in the DNA of an ancient galactic guardian species, now extinct. Your father's kind. With it, you can complete what is already beginning within you. Jensa hesitated only a moment before reaching out. As her fingers closed around the crystal, it dissolved into her skin like water into earth. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then fire exploded through her veins. Jensa fell to her knees, body contorting as the transformation took hold. Her senses sharpened beyond belief, her muscles coiled with raw energy, and her instincts fused with ancient combat knowledge passed through the stars. Images flooded her mind. Planets she'd never seen, creatures beyond imagination, battles among the stars, and always the looming darkness of something hungry and vast. When the pain subsided, she stood changed. Silver fur rippled along her arms before sinking back beneath her skin. Her eyes glowed with internal light. Every cell in her body hummed with new power. What happens now? She asked, her voice deeper, resonant with something primal. Now, said the tallest being, you prepare for war. The transformation came at a cost. Her human side struggled with the wildness growing inside. Dreams turned into battles. Her reflection flickered, sometimes girl, sometimes beast. Jensa would wake gasping, claws tearing through her bedsheets, the echo of alien worlds dying ringing in her ears. Elira watched her daughter's transformation with fear and sorrow. I always knew this day might come, she confessed one night as they sat by the fire. Your father warned me. He said the stars might claim you someday. Did he tell you what he was running from? Jensa asked. golden eyes reflecting the flames. Only that it consumed everything it touched. That it was drawn to life, to harmony, to connection, and that it would never stop hunting. Elira reached for her daughter's hand, flinching only slightly when she found it covered in silver fur. He called it the void that hungers. The council calls it the hollow. Different names for ancient fears. Elira's eyes filled with tears. I've kept you safe as long as I could. That safety ended 3 days later. The attack came at dawn, a sudden darkness descending from the skies like ink dropped into clear water. The trees began to wither where the darkness touched. Animals fled in panic. And then came the Hollow's minions. They moved like smoke-given form, vaguely humanoid but wrong in ways that hurt the eye to observe. Where they passed, life dimmed. The very soil turned gray and lifeless beneath their feet. Jensa felt their arrival like a knife between her ribs. She was running before Elira could stop her, her body shifting as she moved, silver fur sprouting across her skin, muscles bulging and reforming. By the time she reached the edge of the advancing corruption, she was neither fully human nor fully wolf, but something in between, powerful, savage, and blazing with inner light. The first of the shadow creatures reached for her with elongated limbs that seemed to bend in too many places. Jensa didn't think. She responded with instinct older than humanity, tearing through its form with claws that shimmered with starlight. The creature dissolved with a sound like a distant scream. More came, dozens, hundreds, a tide of shadow washing through her forest, clad in starlight-woven armor that had formed around her during her transformation and crowned by the silver of her heritage. She tore through shadows with claws and light. Her howl became a war cry across dimensions. But they were too many. Even with her new strength, she found herself being driven back, forced to retreat toward the cabin where her mother waited. "Run!" she shouted as she burst through the door, her voice distorted by a muzzle half-formed. "Mom, you have to run!" Elira stood calm in the center of the cabin, a small bag already packed. "There's a bunker," she said, "beneath the old observatory. Your father helped build it. It's shielded in ways these things won't detect. Then we go together." Her mother's smile was sad. "No, you have a different path now." She pressed something into Jensa's hand, a small device, alien in design. "Your father left this for you. Said you might need it someday." Before Jensa could respond, the cabin wall splintered inward as something massive tore through it. A hollow creature larger than the others, with a core of pulsing darkness visible through its semi-transparent form. Jensa pushed her mother behind her and charged, meeting the creature with a fury born of fear and desperation. They collided with enough force to shake the cabin's foundations. Jensa's claws raked through the thing's substance, but it seemed to reform almost instantly. Its touch burned like acid against her skin. "Go!" she shouted to her mother. "I'll find you." The battle spilled outside, Jensa and the creature crashing through trees as they fought. Her inexperience showed, for all the ancient knowledge now embedded in her muscles, she had never actually fought before today. The creature seemed to sense her weakness, driving her further from the cabin, separating her from her mother. When Jensa finally managed to destroy it, tearing its pulsing core from its body with a desperate lunge, she realized the trap too late. The smaller shadows had circled around while she was distracted. By the time she fought her way back to the cabin, it was in flames, and her mother was gone. Not dead. Jensa would have felt that. But taken. Dragged into the shadows by creatures that seemed to know exactly who to target to cause her the most pain. As she stood before the burning remains of her childhood home, something shifted inside Jensa. The human grief and the wolf rage merged into something new, a cold, clear purpose that burned brighter than the flames before her. She activated the device her mother had given her. It pulsed once, twice, then projected a small hologram of a star map, a summons. In the distance, beyond the forest's edge, she could see the darkness spreading, more hollow creatures emerging. This had been just the first wave. Earth was under attack, and she couldn't fight this war alone. The Council's ship returned for her that night, descending like a falling star to hover above the smoldering ruins of her home. This time, only the crystalline being emerged. "I am Zenith," he introduced himself. "I will be your guide to the Ark. My mother was taken," Jensa said, her voice flat with controlled emotion. "I need to find her." And you will, Zenith promised, but not alone. The Hollow knows you now. It will send worse than these shadows next time. Reluctantly, Jensa followed him aboard the vessel. Inside, it was larger than seemed possible, with corridors that curved in impossible geometries and walls that seemed alive with flowing energy. The others are waiting, Zenith said, leading her deeper into the ship. Others? You're not the only chosen Jensa of Earth. The Hollow threatens many worlds, and resistance rises on each. They entered a chamber that opened into a vast dome, beyond which stars wheeled in patterns Jensa didn't recognize. Standing beneath this cosmic display were three figures. From the distant highlands of Kenya came Io, a boy whose bond with the wind turned him into a streak of lightning across any terrain. Tall and lithe, with close-cropped hair and eyes that crackled with electrical energy, he carried himself with the grace of a dancer. His people spoke of his ancestors dancing with the storm. "You're the wolf girl," he said when Jensa entered, his accent musical. "I've seen you in my dreams." From the drowned cities of old Japan rose Kaida, a girl with gills visible as delicate slits along her neck and silver scales along her spine. She could speak to ocean beasts and command water. Smaller than the others, with a quiet intensity that seemed at odds with her blue-tinged skin and webbed fingers, she watched Jensa with eyes that reflected light like a deep-sea creature. "Another land dweller," she observed, but there was no malice in her tone. "You smell of trees and earth." And from the Martian colony of Terra Nova came Milo, a cybernetic tech genius with an attitude sharper than his plasma boomerangs. Parts of his body had been enhanced with technology. A metal arm that gleamed under the starlight, circuitry visible beneath the skin of his neck, eyes that whirred slightly as they focused. "Great, another mystic type," he muttered, but his posture betrayed his interest. "Please tell me you understand basic physics at least." "I understand enough to know you're being rude," Jensa replied, surprising herself with the quick retort. Milo's cybernetic eyes widened, then he laughed. "She's got teeth. Good, you'll need them." Zenith moved to the center of the chamber. "You four represent the best hope for your respective worlds. Each of you carries a gift, a connection to fundamental forces that the Hollow seeks to corrupt." "Why us?" Kaida asked, her voice rippling like water over stones. "There are others with gifts." "Because you each stand at a nexus of possibility," Zenith explained, "where choice and destiny intersect. The Hollow is drawn to such points, places where reality itself might be reshaped, and it fears those who can resist its influence at these junctures." "So we're what? Cosmic anomalies?" Milo snorted. "Guardians," corrected Zenith, "as your ancestors were before you." "My ancestors were fishermen," Kaida said, "until the seas rose and claimed our cities. Then we adapted. Mine fought the corporate armies when they tried to strip mine the highlands," Io added. "Nothing mystical about it." "Mine built the first sustainable domes on Mars," Milo said with pride. "Engineering, not magic." Jensa remained silent, thinking of her father, Riael, the name like a song in her blood. What had he truly been? What legacy flowed in her veins? "You will have time to understand your histories," Zenith said. "For now, we must prepare. The Hollow's first attack on Earth was merely a test. It probes for weaknesses, studies responses. Its next assault will be more coordinated." "What about the people we left behind?" Jensa demanded. "My mother was taken. There must be others." "There are," Zenith acknowledged. "The Hollow takes prisoners for study for conversion. They can be saved if we act quickly. But first you must train. Learn to work as one unit." "The Sentinels," Io said suddenly. When the others looked at him, he shrugged. "That's what I saw in my dreams, us, standing together, calling ourselves the Sentinels." "A name with history," Zenith murmured. "Very well. From this moment you are the Sentinels, and your training begins now." They trained aboard the Ark, a moon-sized vessel orbiting the edge of the solar system. Days stretched into weeks as they learned to harness their individual gifts and, more importantly, to combine them into devastating joint attacks. Jensa's wolf spirit made her a natural fighter, her enhanced strength and speed making her the group's frontline defender. Io's control over wind currents allowed him to move faster than thought, striking and retreating before enemies could react. Kaida's communion with water made her a powerful controller, able to reshape battlefields and heal injuries. And Milo's technological genius provided tactical advantages. his modified drones and hacking skills giving them eyes and ears everywhere. Together, they became more than the sum of their parts. But the camaraderie of shared training couldn't erase the shadow hanging over them all. Earth was still vulnerable. And somewhere out there, Jensa's mother, along with countless other prisoners, awaited rescue. Their chance came sooner than expected. Hollow signature detected, announced the Ark's AI as the Sentinels finished another training session. Location, Earth orbital zone. Classification, Titan-class entity. Put it on screen, Zenith ordered. The hotly holographic display at the center of the bridge shifted to show Earth from orbit. Approaching the planet was a massive construct, a crystalline entity that resembled a human only in the broadest sense. Its body was composed of what appeared to be black glass, faceted like a malevolent gem, and it trailed tendrils of darkness that reached toward Earth's atmosphere. A hollow titan, Zenith breathed, his crystalline form dimming slightly in what Jensa had come to recognize as fear. They've escalated faster than predicted. What is that thing? Io demanded. A world killer, Zenith said grimly, designed to pierce a planet's defenses and establish a foothold for larger hollow forces. Once it anchors itself, it will begin converting Earth's biosphere to suit hollow needs. How do we stop it? Jensa asked, already moving toward the armory. You aren't ready, Zenith protested. Titans require coordinated strikes from experienced guardians. You've barely begun to master your abilities. That's my home it's threatening. Jensa growled, her eyes flashing gold. We go. Now. To her surprise, the others backed her immediately. Earth is under my protection too, Kaida said quietly. My people may live beneath the waves now, but we remember the land. If that thing reaches Mars next, everyone I love dies, Milo added, his cybernetic arm reconfiguring into weapon mode. Besides, Io grinned, electricity crackling around his form, we were getting bored with simulations anyway. If Zenith looked at each of them, then nodded slowly. Very well, but you will follow my tactical guidance. A Titan cannot be defeated through brute force alone. The journey to Earth took mere minutes in the Council's advanced shuttle. As they approached, the true scale of the hollow Titan became apparent. It was massive, nearly a kilometer tall, its black glass body refracting sunlight in disturbing patterns. It's beautiful, Kaida whispered, in a terrible way. Don't admire the thing trying to kill your planet, Milo muttered, but his eyes were wide with a similar horrified fascination. Listen carefully, Zenith instructed as they prepared to engage. The Titan's core is protected by layers of crystalline armor. You must breach these layers sequentially. Direct force against the outer shell will only be reflected back at you. So what's the plan? Jensa asked, adjusting the starlight armor that had formed around her body. Kaida disrupts its outer matrix with precision water pressure. Io creates an opening with his speed. Milo disables its defensive systems. And you, Jensa, strike the core. Simple in theory, far more difficult in execution. The battle began high in Earth's atmosphere. The Titan sensed their approach and responded with deadly efficiency, firing shards of black crystal that homed in on their shuttle with unnatural precision. Evasive maneuvers, Zenith called, but even his expert piloting couldn't avoid all the projectiles. The shuttle shuddered as crystals tore through its hull. We're losing altitude, Milo reported, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. We need to abandon ship. Not until we're in striking range, Zenith insisted. The shuttle plunged closer to the Titan, sensors screaming warnings as life support systems failed one by one. Just when it seemed they would crash directly into the creature's crystalline body, Zenith gave the order. Now! They launched from the dying shuttle like arrows from a bow. Kaida went first, her body surrounded by a sphere of water pulled from the very air itself. She struck the Titan's outer shell with the precision of a surgeon, the pressurized water finding and exploiting microscopic flaws in the crystal. Where she passed, hairline fractures appeared in the black glass. Io followed, his body transforming into living lightning that danced along these fractures, widening them with microsecond bursts of pressure. The pattern is forming. Zenith's voice came through their comm devices. Milo, prepare to disable its cognitive matrix. Milo launched his specialized drones, tiny machines that crawled into the growing cracks, carrying viral code designed to disrupt the Titan's coordination. Lights flickered across the creature's massive form as its systems fought the intrusion. Jensa! Now! Zenith commanded. Jensa had been circling, watching, waiting for her moment. Now she dove, her body shifting into her battle form, a hybrid of human and wolf, wrapped in starlight armor that blazed against the Titan's darkness. Her trajectory took her straight into the largest fissure created by her teammates' combined efforts. Inside the Titan was a nightmare landscape of shifting crystal and pulsing energy. Hostile defense systems registered her presence immediately, sending spears of black glass shooting toward her from every direction. Jensa dodged with inhuman reflexes, her claws leaving trails of light as she fought her way deeper. The core should be directly ahead, Zenith guided. Hurry, the breach is closing behind you. Jensa pushed forward, ignoring the cuts and burns as crystal shards sliced through her armor. Finally, she reached a chamber at the Titan's center, where a pulsing orb of darkness hung suspended in a lattice of energy. The core. As she approached, the darkness within the orb shifted. A face formed, inhuman yet recognizable. Eyes opened, regarding her with ancient malice. Child of Riel, it spoke directly into her mind. The traitor's blood. You cannot stop what comes. Watch me, Jensa snarled, and launched herself at the core. The darkness reached for her with tendrils that burned where they touched. Images flooded her mind, her mother screaming, her friends falling, earth consumed by shadow. But through the mental assault, Jensa held on to one truth. This creature had helped take her mother, had threatened her home. With a howl that transcended her physical form, she plunged her light-wreathed claws into the core of darkness. The Titan's death throes shook the atmosphere. Jensa was blasted clear as the creature began to collapse in on itself, its kilometer-tall form imploding with a sound that could be heard across continents. The Sentinels regrouped on a debris field floating high above the Pacific Ocean, all that remained of the hollow Titan. We actually did it, Milo gasped, his cybernetic systems running emergency repairs on his damaged body. Barely, Kaida said, using her water abilities to heal a deep gash across Io's chest. Jensa stood apart, staring at her hands, human again now, but still thrumming with the power she had unleashed. The Titan had recognized her, had known her father's name, had called him traitor. It spoke to me, she said finally, said I couldn't stop what's coming. Of course it would say that, Io replied. Psychological warfare. But Zenith's expression was grave. Titans do not speak idly. If it addressed you specifically, Jensa, then the Hollow knows who you are, what you represent. And what is that exactly? Jensa demanded. You still haven't told us everything. Before Zenith could answer, Milo interrupted. Guys, we've got incoming, lots of incoming. On his holographic display, dozens of smaller hollow signatures were converging on Earth, drawn by the Titan's destruction or perhaps deployed as a contingency plan. They're targeting major population centers, Kaida observed. Rio, Lagos, Shanghai, New Singapore. Jensa made the decision before Zenith could speak. We split up, one sentinel per target. We can cover more ground that way. That's not the protocol, Zenith protested. You're stronger together. There are too many targets, Jensa countered. If we stay together, people die. Besides, she smiled grimly, consider it a field test. Let's see what your chosen can really do. And so the sentinels scattered across the globe, each racing to intercept a hollow threat. None of them noticed the smallest signature, the one headed for the northern forests where Jensa had grown up, the one moving with purpose rather than destruction in mind. The one searching for something or someone specific. But power attracts challenge. From the depths of the hollow came Vorak, once a guardian like Jensa's ancestors, now corrupted. His form was a twisted reflection of her own, claws like obsidian, eyes glowing with hate. Alongside him stood Draven, a former chosen who betrayed the council. Enhanced by hollow tech, he could twist minds and break spirits. He called himself Blackthorn. They emerged from the shadows of what had once been Jensa's home forest, now a blighted zone where the hollow's corruption had taken root. Trees stood like blackened skeletons against a sky perpetually dimmed by unnatural clouds. The soil had turned to gray ash. Nothing lived here anymore. Vorak moved through this desolation like a king surveying his domain. His body resembled Jensa's transformed state, but where she blazed with inner light, he absorbed it. Darkness clung to him like a second skin, occasionally revealing glimpses of the guardian he had once been, powerful, majestic, terrifying. The girl is stronger than we anticipated, he said, his voice a growl that seemed to emanate from the blighted earth itself. She destroyed the Titan. Beside him, Draven Blackthorn smiled coldly. Once human, his body now incorporated holotechnology that pulsed beneath his pale skin like black veins. Where Vorak was primal force, Draven was calculated precision. She has her father's strength, Blackthorn acknowledged, but not his experience, not his control. She killed one of our world breakers, Vorak snarled. The Master is displeased. The Master sees opportunity where you see only failure, Blackthorn countered. The girl's power confirms she's suitable for the next phase. They approached a structure that hadn't been there before the Hollow came, a towering spire of black crystal that pulsed with the same unhealthy energy that pervaded the corrupted forest. Around its base, shadowy figures worked tirelessly, processing material harvested from Earth and transforming it into something else entirely. Inside the spire, prisoners were kept, humans mostly, collected for study and experimentation. Among them was Alira, Jensa's mother, held in a specialized containment chamber. Unlike the others, she showed no signs of fear. Her eyes burned with defiance as Vorak and Blackthorn entered her cell. "You think she'll come for you," Blackthorn said without preamble. "You're right, but not in the way you hope. My daughter will destroy you," Alira stated with calm certainty. "Just as her father would have, if you hadn't ambushed him when he was wounded." Vorak snarled, lunging forward only to be held back by Blackthorn's restraining hand. "Tell us about Real," Blackthorn demanded. "How he hid among humans, how he passed his essence to a half-breed child." "I will tell you nothing," Alira replied. "You don't need to." Blackthorn smiled, the expression never reaching his eyes. "Your DNA tells us enough, and hers will tell us the rest." He turned to leave, then paused. "You should know your sacrifice is meaningful. Through your daughter, the Hollow will achieve something it has sought for millennia: perfect adaptation, the ability to consume not just worlds, but realities." "You're making a mistake," Alira warned. "The Hollow can't control what Jensa carries inside her." "We'll see." Blackthorn's smile widened. "After all, we were able to control Rael in the end. Weren't we, Vorak?" The corrupted guardian growled low in his throat, but said nothing. As they left Alira's cell, Blackthorn activated a communication device. "Prepare the harvesting chamber. When the wolf child comes, and she will come, I want everything ready." "You fight with heart," Vorak sneered as they stepped into the dying forest. "But the heart is weak." The words were meant for Jensa, though she was thousands of miles away. Somehow, Vorak knew she would hear them, carried on wind and shadow to where she fought another Hollow incursion in what had once been Thailand. And hear them she did. Standing amid the ruins of a temple complex surrounded by the dissipating forms of shadow creatures she had just destroyed, Jensa froze as Vorak's voice echoed in her mind. "No," she growled in response, though he couldn't hear her. "The heart is wild." And under the blood moon, they met for the first time in the Amazon Verdant Nexus, one of Earth's primal energy centers. The Hollow was winning, choking the land, poisoning the sky. Kaida summoned waves to drown the Hollow nests. Io became a blur of thunder and speed. Milo hacked their weapons mid-battle. But Jensa faced Vorak alone. It wasn't supposed to be a confrontation. Not yet. The Sentinels had gathered at the Nexus to prevent another Hollow Titan from establishing a foothold in Earth's most biodiverse region. Their plan was surgical. Disrupt the dimensional anchor, plant Milo's disruptor bombs, retreat before major Hollow forces could respond. But Vorak had been waiting, had known they would come.